I do grocery delivery for extra money. Nights are best. Quiet streets, fewer stairs, better tips from people who don't want to be seen. I've done it long enough to learn the different kinds of customers. The chatty ones who meet you at the curb and overshare about their keto phase. The ones who leave a cooler on the porch with a thank you note and a 5. The ghosters. No lights, no hello, where you leave the paper towels like a peace offering and walk away. And sometimes the ones who make you feel like you've stepped onto a stage you didn't audition for. The night I'm talking about was cool and damp. Fog rolling up from the river like someone boiling a huge pot just out of sight. I'd taken a heavy order because the pay looked worth it. Cases of water, breakfast stuff, a weird amount of canned peaches. The address was on the edge of town, past the new developments and into the older grid where the streets narrow and the sidewalks buckle around roots. The customer name was M. Lark. No profile picture, just a gray silhouette. In the order notes, please deliver after dark. Do not knock. Text me when you're 2 minutes away, not unusual except the after dark part. I checked the time, it was already well into after dark. I did my typical routine, picked the items, double-checked produce, snapped the required photos. While I was scanning the last barcode, a message popped up from the customer. Thanks for doing the late delivery. Please wear gloves if you have them. I stared at that for a second. I keep nitrile gloves in my trunk for leaky detergent. It wasn't a big ask. I wrote back, no problem. On my way, the house stood alone on a block that used to be crowded. You can tell when a neighborhood thins out. Fences sag, where they used to share posts, and streetlights throw more shadow than light. The address was a once white, now grayish 2-story with a steep roof and a porch, whose boards had that silver deadwood look. A streetlight a few houses down buzzed and flickered, with a moth the size of my hand smacking into its lens. Beyond the lot, the fog lay like a slow river. I parked across the street because the curb directly in front dipped into a cracked culvert. The windows were dark, no porch light. I sent the 2 minutes out text like they'd asked. The reply came back instantly. I'm on the 2nd floor. Leave everything by the door, left side against the railing. Please stack the water last. A second later, another message. Do not speak to anyone who asks you for directions. I read that 3 times. I looked up and down the street. Not a soul. I put on the gloves anyway, slid 2 cases of water out, then the first bag, and carried them across. My shoes sounded too loud on the pavement. The house up the block let out a high metallic creak. As the wind moved a loose gutter, the porch gave under my foot with a long, tired sigh. I set the bags where they'd asked, left side near the railing. The wood smelled faintly wet, like old cardboard after rain. On my next trip, I heard a faint click from inside, like a lock turning. My spine tingled. I told myself it was normal. People check the door when they know you're there. Some watch from the stairs. Some watch from behind the peephole. I kept stacking bags. Every time I straightened, the huge moth slammed itself into the streetlight, like someone tapping a microphone. On my last trip, hauling the 2nd case of water, I heard footsteps across the street, not close, just that soft rhythms of soles, scuffing concrete, starting and stopping. I didn't look. I set the water down and took the photo proof the app requires. The flash showed me the details I hadn't noticed. A hairline crack in the front window with clear tape over it. A white triangle of paper stuck under the edge of the doormat. A faint smear on the doorframe at shoulder height, like someone had brushed past with paint on their sleeve. I sent the delivered message and added, everything's by the door. Thanks. There was the shortest pause, then the response. Please wait on the top step. I've reached a problem with my door. I stared at that. The payout was already locked in. I could have left, but good ratings matter, and I've reached a problem with my door. It felt like the kind of sentence an older person might write. I stood on the top step, bag handles cutting crescents in my gloved fingers, even though I wasn't holding anything anymore. The door didn't open. No chain sliding, no deadbolt, no movement behind the little diamond-shaped bevel in the glass. A new message. Do you hear her yet? A cold wind got through the knit of my shirt, like fingers. I looked around. Fog had pushed in closer to the porch, not thick enough to be dramatic, just enough to make the air look smudged. Down the block, the gutter squealed again. "Who?" I wrote. "The woman who asks for directions." My mouth went dry. I didn't hit send on anything. I looked down the stairs and saw, across the street near my car, a figure standing exactly behind my driver's side door, as if using it to hide from me. Not tall, but not small, a shadow more than a person. "Sir or ma'am," I typed. "Someone's by my car." "Is that with you?" No dots appeared in the chat. The moth hammered the light hard enough to make the bulb ring. The shadow by my car stepped backward like it had noticed me noticing. It wasn't hiding very well. I could make out the suggestion of hair, maybe a knit cap, the long dark length of a coat. Another message arrived. "Do not go down. Do not call out. Listen." Sometimes your own breath is the loudest thing you hear. Mine felt like it was stitching the air. I tried to make it quiet and just made it quick. That soft scuff started up again, this time pacing slowly along the sidewalk line, fronting the house, my car, the neighbor's low hedge. Every few seconds the figure would pause like it was reading something, then resume. My phone vibrated in my hand. The message was longer. "She will ask for directions. She will call you by your name. She will use a voice that is almost, but not quite right. She will ask for the river. She will ask what lark means. You must not answer. If you answer, you are struggling with her. If you struggle, she will take you into the fog. Let her keep asking. Let her become lost on her own. Do you understand?" I typed, "Who is this?" "She is not mine," came back. "She doesn't knock. She lingers." An ugly curiosity forced me to look over my shoulder. The glass in the door was dark enough to be a mirror. A version of my face hung there, light from the street making my eyes look too bright. The house was silent behind it. I cupped my hands to the glass to try to see inside, then stopped myself. I didn't want whatever was inside to see me trying to see it. The pacing across the street stopped. The figure stood very still, then took a single step off the curb like someone testing a pool with their foot. Another step. The fog wasn't that thick, but it ate the edges of things. As the person got closer, I could make out details. Not a coat, but something like a wool dress. Not a knit cap, but hair pulled back flat. Pale hands. Bare ankles reflecting the streetlight. No phone, no bag, just the person herself. She stepped onto the house's side of the street and turned her head in a way that felt copied from a tutorial. Too deliberate, chin down, then up, like a model practicing three-quarter angles. My phone buzzed. "Do not speak." She reached the bottom step and stopped like there was a line there. She was young, 30 maybe, but something about the skin around her mouth looked dehydrated, like she'd been traveling by wind. Her eyes were wet, too wet, bright in the light. When she spoke, the sound vibrated wrong, as if run through a filter. "Can you help me?" she asked. "I'm looking for the river." I kept my lips pressed together. She exhaled and smiled, the kind of smile you use to show you're harmless. "I'm lost," she said. The smile stayed while the corners of her eyes pinched, like the smile was painted on. "You're my first name, right?" I flinched. The app shows names at drop-off sometimes. I looked at my phone, then at her. Another message came from the customer. "She has the name. She does not have you. Do not answer." The woman's expression shifted a fraction, like she'd been given direction to try something else. "I think I know you," she said, "from the gas station on Bay. We always see you. You deliver the food. You always help, always." The word echoed like it had a different definition in her mouth. She lifted a hand as if measuring the air. That was when I noticed her fingernails, short, broken to the quick, ragged edges dark with dirt. Her wrist bones were sharp as if she'd been in a long, cold room. "Do you know what lark means?" she asked, almost cheerfully. My skin crawled, my eyes flicked to the chat. Another message. Let her keep asking. Do not become part of her sentence. The woman tilted her head again. It's like a bird, she said, or a joke, or an adventure, on a lark. I'm on a lark. She laughed once, a single bark, and then fell very still as if listening for someone to cue her next line. A whisper slipped under the door behind me, not words, just a breath gathering itself. The porch boards creaked under my shoes, as if reacting to a weight that wasn't mine. The woman on the steps tried another approach. You're very kind, she said, her voice softening to a pitch that was almost perfectly human. You don't want to be rude. I know you don't. I can tell. The moth hurled itself into the light again. The streetlight stuttered. In the pulse of dimness, her pupils widened impossibly, swallowing the colored ring in her eyes. When the light steadied, they snapped back to normal size. I heard my own voice in my head say, "Don't." She took one step up. It was tiny, like she needed the porch to pull her, and it didn't. I'm freezing, she said, and for the first time I believed she might be. It was late fall. The fog was damp enough to crawl into your sleeves. The voice that texted me returned, "Left side of the railing." Look down. I cut my eyes to the left. Taped to the inside of the railing, I saw another white triangle like the one under the doormat. The fog had curled up the edge. Printed on it was a tiny block of black text. Do not describe the river. I almost laughed from nerves, as if they knew my brain had been busy cataloging the river's path. 4 blocks east, then the drop to the floodplain, the smell of iron and algae. The woman blinked and took back that step without moving her feet, like the night itself retracted her a notch. You don't have to tell me, she said, with that bright, coaxing tone. Just say yes, so I know we see each other. It hit me then what it felt like standing in knee-deep water when the tide pulls straight down, not out. The force wasn't lateral. It wanted me to condense into her shape. I swallowed and tasted metal. Another message arrived. Edge of the step, right shoe, stomp. I obeyed without thinking. I brought my heel down on the edge of the top step hard enough to sting. The wood answered with a hollow crack that ran like a pulse through the porch. In the exact second after, the woman's head ticked to the side, not like a person, but like a picture frame set wrong on a wall. She took another tiny step backward, the fog touching her shins. You can't help? She asked, flat now, not trying the soft voice. You can't help me find the river? My phone buzzed one more time. Say this exactly. Someone else will know. I was already shaking my head, silent when the words left me. Someone else will know. They came out like a recited line because they were. The woman stared up at me for a long 2 seconds with that too bright eye shine. The streetlight hummed. The moth had finally disappeared or died. Then the corners of her mouth lifted the painted-on smile again, and she said in a voice that sounded like it was played from a speaker in a neighboring room, Yes, someone else will. She rotated, no shift of weight, just a pivot, and began to walk back the way she came, not fast, not slow, not looking around as if she might pick a different house. She moved like a wind-up toy on a tape laid in fog. I watched her pass my car, watched the slight space her legs made in the mist close behind her, watched her reach the corner and pause in front of a dark shape on the sidewalk like a person sitting very small. I blinked and both shapes were gone. Only the gutter squealed again, far off like a hinge giving up. The door behind me unlatched with a sound that made my mouth flood with saliva, like the sound you hear before you throw up. A voice spoke from the darkness inside. It wasn't old, it wasn't young, it had the steadiness of someone carefully managing fear. Thank you, the voice said. Please go now. You did enough. Every instinct screamed not to turn around. I stepped backward until I felt the top step with my heel, then kept going down without showing my back. At the sidewalk, my eyes were full of grain, my vision shaking like a phone camera in low light. My car door was locked. I never lock the car at deliveries. It was locked. When I fumbled the key fob, my hands were trembling so hard, I dropped it under the car. For a moment, I saw my own face reflected in the chrome strip of the door, pulled long by the curve, eyes like two dimes. I sucked in air and crouched, and there it was, the key fob sitting in a shallow puddle that looked the way you draw a river on a map in grade school. Slow curves, edges muddy with leaf sludge. I snatched it and got inside and locked the doors twice. My phone buzzed. One more message from the house. If she ever asks again, do not tell her whether you remember her. I stared at that too long and then drove away, checking my rear view more than the road. At the first stop sign, I broke the rules and looked back at the house. The porch was empty. The triangle under the doormat had been pulled in, or maybe it had never been there. I thought about calling support and telling them something. What? I didn't know. Instead, I drove to the gas station on Bay because it was brightly lit and I needed fluorescent hum and strangers. I went inside and bought coffee that tasted like cardboard and warmth. And on the way out the door, the night attendant, a guy with a square jaw and permanent hat hair, said, "Hey, do you deliver out by the river?" "On Lark? That place everyone avoids?" "Why?" I asked before I could stop myself. He scratched his cheek. "Just heard it's bad for tires. Nails or something." I nodded like that made sense. I got in my car and turned the radio up just to hear a voice that didn't know my name. On the drive home, every reflective street sign looked like a person's smile hovering in the dark. When I parked, I sat for a while and watched my building's windows for movement. The fog had thinned to a damp sheen on the asphalt. A night bird called from the trees, something high and curious. I told myself these facts. There are houses by the river on Lark Street. Some are occupied, some are not. Fog rolls in, wood creaks, people walk. I told myself I delivered groceries to a person trying to keep their door closed against another person's need. I told myself until it sounded like advice I'd give a stranger on the internet. If someone asks for directions and they start with your name, you don't owe them an answer. If someone asks you to define a word you didn't bring up, let the conversation die of natural causes. If a door is closed, leave it closed. That weekend, I went through my car to throw out old bottles and receipts and found something wedged under the passenger seat, a white triangle of paper curled at the corner. It looked like trash, thin, brittle, cheap printer stock. The block of text was tiny, almost too small to read unless you held it up to light. I did and saw it was the same sentence as the railing. Do not describe the river. I folded it back on itself and slid it into the glove compartment with the manual. I told myself I'd throw it away later. I never have. When the fog rolls in now, even in my part of town, I swear I hear soft steps on pavement, starting and stopping like a question getting asked wrong at the top of every hour. I don't roll my window down. I don't answer. I keep the engine running until the light turns, and then I go.